Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers, sisters, viewers, friends of Iqra TV. Welcome to another edition of Real Talk. I'm your host Iqbal Bana on Iqra TV. Every week, as I say, I come into your homes trying to bring to you people and issues and subjects of interest that affects all our communities, whether you're Muslim or non-Muslim, whether you're Christian, but mainly the Muslim community in this country in particular, and that's what my focus is mainly always on. And every week I try and bring people to you of some interest, people who can give us some advice, some guidance, some knowledge, some information about what it is to be a Muslim person, a citizen living in the United Kingdom. And today is no exception. I have got an amazing person with me, a very young councillor in one of the largest cities in this country, and that is the city of Leeds, which has got a massive population and also a huge budget as in terms of local government, and they provide enormous amount of services. So I'm really deeply honoured that today I have brought, I wish the word brought is not the correct word, that she has very kindly accepted my invitation. And believe you me, this has taken some time because she is such a busy person that it's been very, very difficult to try and arrange for her to get here. Because she's not just a councillor, there's many people are councillors, but like every local authority, like we have in government, you have people who are in the cabinet, who actually make decisions, who are responsible for certain departments. And my guest, Salma Arif, who's Councillor Salma Arif, is no exception. And in fact, she probably has one of the most difficult portfolios to manage in any local government, whether it's a small local authority at a local small level in a town or city, or a massive organization, a massive city like Leeds City Council, which is huge, which is one of the regional sort of centers of central government in this part of the world. So I'm deeply honored that, Salma has very kindly finally managed to be able to get here, because every Monday when I've asked her, she's got some commitment somewhere, particularly when it comes to council business. And hence it's been very difficult to try and fit this meeting together. But today she is here, and I'm going to ask her about her journey as a politician. When you see her, she's quite young. Why a young person like that wanted to go into politics, or drove into politics, and then we talk about her role. Her role, as I say, is adult and social care, active leisure services, and culture. And believe you me, that is a huge portfolio, managing I don't know how many hundreds of people or thousands of people in that city, particularly dealing with some very sensitive issues. We know what it's like for adult social care at the moment. Various governments have tried to rectify it, to try and bring a system in that can do justice to all those who need adult care support. And therefore, it is a very challenging portfolio. Salma, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Finally, we get together. I mean, we meet on a social basis. How are you doing? Nice to see you here.
Wa alaikum salam, and thank you, Iqbal Bhai. It's an absolute honour to
the pleasure is ours.
Be here. Thank you so much for having me. I feel really honoured to be here. And my apologies. My apologies because
my audience don't know you've just walked in. So it's all right.
No. My apologies for one, just being a couple of minutes late, but also we said we were going to do this about a year ago.
I know. Tell me about it.
Mondays are always really difficult, but I was like, there's no way I'm not going to get to this today. So alhamdulillah, very well. Good to be in Bradford. We have a lot of love for Bradford, particularly the cuisine in Bradford. I've got a lot of friends living in Bradford, and to be honest with you, we're quite a regular visitor.
Well, Bradford and Leeds are very close to each other, aren't they?
Absolutely, they are.
Yeah, we're interchangeable communities in a way.
Absolutely, we've got a lot to learn from Bradford. Actually, there's a lot of your entrepreneurship is absolutely fantastic, and I always give.
I don't live in Bradford, by the way.
Oh, do you not?
I don't live in Bradford. I'm not going to say thank God, but I live in a small town called Batley.
Okay. Yes, we know Batley well as well.
People in Batley don't know where Batley is. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, thank you for coming. Now, obviously, you're a very young councillor, and you got this huge portfolio where you manage. Well, you're responsible for adult social care, active leisure, lifestyle, and culture.
Correct.
Now, for a city like Leeds, which is like a cultural icon in such a way, in some ways, that is a massive portfolio on its own.
It is, yeah. I'm alhamdulillah, I'm first of all just really fortunate to be a councillor representing my residents in Gipton Hare Hills, because I was born in Hare Hills.
Oh right, you're in Hare Hills.
Gipton and Hare Hills,
right,
yes. I was born in Hare Hills, and then on top of that we have, so as a councillor you get elected, and then sometimes you have different roles. And actually, Iqbal Bhai, I was called upon the cabinet in just as the pandemic had hit. I was the first Muslim woman or woman of colour to hit Leeds City Council's cabinet.
All right, cabinet.
And you know, the responsibility he gave me, my leader, James Lewis, gave me, the first portfolio he gave me was public health.
Oh wow.
At the time
and
of
that was a COVID time.
Exactly,
oh,
at the
my
COVID time.
goodness.
So he was like, you sink or you swim. So that was my, and actually 3.5 years into my job as a councillor. So alhamdulillah, I was quite fortunate that, one, I got into the cabinet as being the first Asian woman or woman of colour on Leeds City Council.
I mean, you're very young, mashallah. Yeah. What drove you into, I mean, politics is a very nasty, dirty, challenging, you know, game. What drove you into politics?
So I'm not that young, Balbai. I've got a couple of white hairs if you look closely.
No, we don't think we want.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was not meant to be in politics, complete accident. Nobody in my family background is of any interest in politics at all. I joined the party when I was younger at university. Very quick story, really. The reason why I got involved in politics was because we were selecting our next member of parliament. I walked into a meeting. I thought, this is really important for me to be involved in, because nationally at this time there was the student fees was a big issue, so we joined at university. I went into this meeting, lots of people were in that meeting, and I noticed there was really very little women. There was 74 people in the room, three were women.
Oh my goodness. That
was my turning point, Iqbal Bhai. I thought, I'm part of the problem. So I slowly, I was encouraged by two people actually. One, my former colleague, Councillor Arif Hussain, is no longer a councillor, and also currently councillor Iqbal, Mohammed Iqbal. You will know them well.
Know him quite well.
Honestly, they guided me, supported me. They said, Salma, there's not a lot of Muslim women in the community. Would you like to get involved? At that time, I had a law background. I was a consultant in the legal field. I used to travel a lot. I thought, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I want to get into politics.
So by profession, you're a lawyer?
Yes. Right. My background is law. Right. But you know, alhamdulillah, when I came into politics, I decided to stand. 2016, I got elected with 79% of the vote. Because I'm from the area, people knew me. I
know the area quite well, actually.
You know exactly.
Because my son, who used to have a post office on Eastleigh Road.
No way.
Yep, my son had a post office.
He knows Eastleigh Road extremely well. He'll know my family as well.
So
that was my journey, and I never really looked back. I gave up my job.
Right.
To become a full-time councillor.
You're a full-time councillor?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Because I mean, in a city like that, you need to be full-time, especially if you're a portfolio holder.
Exactly.
So how many staff come under you?
So that's a really good question. So I've got Leeds City Council, as you know, is a massive council.
It is.
In fact,
it's a huge
after Birmingham, it's the largest council. A lot of people
don't
know this.
So it's the third. It must be the third largest.
Second after.
Because I thought Birmingham. Sorry, we don't have London anymore. Yeah.
Exactly.
The
London
GLC.
but the boroughs don't they? So Leeds is actually the second largest council.
We've
got over 800,000 people living in the city. My three portfolios, as you say, adult social care. A lot of people don't know this, but 70% of our services go to children's and adults. Social care and adults is very complicated. We've got an ageing population. We legislatively under the Care Act, we've got to provide those services as a council. And it's a massive budget as well, as you know.
I was going to have two questions. How many staff and what's your budget?
So the budget is big. We've got £50 million in terms of the budget.
That's for social care?
Yeah, just for social care.
Right.
In terms of staff, including all my portfolios, there'll be thousands of staff. But I'm not directly responsible for, obviously I oversee the budget. I have directors that work and manage those particular staff members. And adult social care, really massive. Actually really, really important for me, because as you know, from a culture, we come where we respect our elders. It's really important for us to, make sure we look after our elders, make sure they get the best. And it, particularly coming to social world as well, my my twin sister, actually, she's a social worker
with
adult social care. So it was really interesting for me to go into the world. But it's
so you got both ends of the information.
I ask her questions.
Yep,
she doesn't work at Leeds City Council, actually.
Right.
She used to work at York, but she's in Kirklees now.
Oh, is she?
Yes, she is.
All right. But I've got friends in Kirklees Social Services.
You probably know her.
I don't know her. But
so it's really interesting. But obviously, one, we oversee the policies. We make sure that we've got the adequate care that's available for residents.
I'm going to come to that later on, because I say every local authority is struggling. We know that for a fact.
Yes.
Social care is something that is a huge concern, not just to people like you who are running the services, but people outside who are users of the service as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
And therefore, there's a big battle going on between the two. And as I said at the beginning, so every local government that comes, every central government that comes in, we've heard, Boris Johnson when he stood outside Downing Street. We heard Rishi Sunak, we heard Liz Truss, and we heard Keir Starmer, and Theresa May, and before that, Mr. David Cameron, all say when they walked into Downing Street that we're going to fix social care. And so far, nobody has been able to do that. It's a massive challenge for everyone, not just the providers, but the users themselves. We've heard some really difficult stories about how users may not be receiving the care because the local authorities do not have the sufficient resources to deliver the care that is needed. So I'll come back to that. But I mean, obviously, let's deal with the other two portfolios.
Sure.
Which is active lifestyle and culture. What does that really mean?
So active lifestyles is, so Leeds City Council we've got our own leisure centres.
Yeah.
So I oversee, again, all the leisure centres we've got in the city. But it's not just the leisure centres, it's the services we have in those leisure centres, but also it's also the sports side of things as well. So I'm involved in all the sports activity that happens in the city, so the pitches, sort of helping let's say the cricket, rugby. I'm involved in all of that, and it's really great because I get to go to some really amazing events and get to meet grassroots local organisations. But actually, because I had the public health budget portfolio, I don't have that. Sport is and the leisure centre portfolio is really important for me because, as you probably know, Iqbal Bhai, when the COVID pandemic hit, health inequalities massively increased, and our people who, because of various reasons, weren't as active. So I'm really trying to using that portfolio to drive more people out there. Interactivities, and doesn't necessarily have to be our leisure centres, which obviously is really good. Actually, in fact, our uptake of leisure centres, we've got 33,000 leisure centre users just in Leeds right now. It's increased massively because we're really good at what we deliver. But also, how do we get more people in the parks?
So you haven't closed any down, have you?
Do you know what? We haven't.
Because a lot of local authorities...
we're building a brand new one. A lot of local authorities have, so I'm really proud of Leeds City Council.
Right. When
you're hearing bad stories up and down the country,
I mean, Kirklees, Bradford, I think they've all closed down.
Yeah, I think
and
the budgets are extremely difficult, and I feel for my colleagues across the region, there are some really difficult choices you have to make. But what we do in Leeds City Council is we do invest to save. Right. So we invest in our facilities, make sure they're good facilities, and that brings in more numbers. Right. It's about income generation and always looking at doing things differently. But talking about closing leisure centres, we're doing the opposite. We've got an ageing leisure centre in not far from where your son had his post office, actually, Easty Road. It's called Fernville Leisure Centre in East Leeds and Gipton. So twice we asked the government as part of the levelling up agenda, if you remember, from Mr. Boris Johnson, our former Prime Minister. Both times they were rejected, but Leeds City Council have said it's really important, we care about health inequalities. Obviously, somebody who represents the ward as well, I've made sure that we are now going to build a brand new leisure centre. So that's coming in a couple of years. We've done the procurement, and it's going to be first class. It's going to be fantastic. And that's important because it's people from that community.
And have you seen a more uptake from people from the Asian subcontinent community?
Yeah, I think there were always, when I look at the numbers, so when I get briefings as an elected member, we look at the membership, and I always say, because the health inequalities are in our more deprived areas, how many people are coming through the door from our deprived, and how do we get more of them to go through the leisure centres? But not just the leisure centres, but how do we do and go into their communities and make things happen? There is definitely an uptake. More work has to happen. That's very good.
I mean, obviously, in the past we've not been served properly because, you know, for example, our young people, when they first came, they were playing cricket.
Yes.
And obviously here it's football, and, you know, there was no accommodation for that. But those things are changing. But in terms of culture, obviously, you know, you have this, the arena, the first Leeds Arena, for example, over there. And you've got other venues. You've got the old town hall,
Yes.
which is, you
yes.
know, an amazing building. I've been there. I only visited once when Junaid Jamshed, may Allah bless him, we held a charity event there, and he was the key guest, and, you know, for one of the Muslim schools. And that's an amazing building itself. And all these facilities that you have,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, in the old days, not many people from our community were touching, feeling those facilities. But is that sort of changing as well?
So in terms of the culture portfolio, I'm new to that culture portfolio.
Right.
I was only given that additional portfolio in May.
You must be well liked by your leader to be giving you all this.
I'm not sure if it's well liked. No, I'm blessed, honestly, and I
Right.
guess it's really he has faith in me to be able to carry out these positions and roles.
Right.
But actually, it's a really, really lovely portfolio, and there's so much more to it. The town hall we're renovating. It's
Right.
opening in 2026. It's going to be fantastic. These
Right.
ageing buildings take a lot of
Oh yes, yes,
as
they
a
do.
kind of energy and a lot of resource to keep them to the right standard. So that's a piece of work we're doing in the town hall. But I think you're absolutely right. We in Leeds are extremely fortunate. We've got the Leeds Museum. We've got so many fantastic cultural hubs in the city. In terms of your question, Iqbal Bhai, you will find not just in Leeds, but often not everybody can afford to go to the theatre. Perhaps they've got other priorities like feeding their family, and it's the access isn't. It's always seen as perhaps people are a little bit more well off.
Well, I mean, going to the theatre and, you know, the concerts and the opera,
Absolutely.
like, you know, West Yorkshire Opera House, for example, those are in a different category. I'm talking about the ordinary working class person.
Well, this
you
is
know.
what we're trying to do now. We're
Right.
trying to make our museums and galleries that we have more accessible. And actually,
Right.
just to give you an example, what we try to do is we celebrate ethnically diverse communities in our museums. We put up, so very recently, perhaps about 7-8 months ago, we did a exhibition showcasing the top leaders of the North, but
Right.
of ethnically background.
Right.
That were there. And I'll tell you a story which is really fantastic. They did an exhibition on death, and they found an old picture, a very old picture from 1953, Iqbal Bhai,
Right.
and it's a big poster, and they're showing in Hare Hill Cemetery,
Right.
one of the very first Muslim janazas.
Oh, right.
And you'll be even surprised to find out, in that picture is my nana.
Oh,
In that picture, not just my nana, all of our ancestors.
1953.
Uncle Zaman, I'm sure, yes. I don't know if
Right.
you've, of Birmingham, if you've heard of Uncle Zaman, they were in that picture. They were so very young.
Right.
I only ever met 2 or 3 people in that picture. It's a great picture, and it's fantastic because nobody knew where that picture came from. Somebody told me, I think this is your grandfather. I tweeted it when the riots were happening to say, look, our elders came, they faced so much discrimination, we've come a long way. A couple of days later, I got an email, Iqbal Bhai, to say, Councillor, this is really great, I've come across your Twitter message. We've been trying to identify who these individuals were. We find the film, the photos in a skipyard.
Oh, wow.
Could you please send me the information of who these people are so we can update our system? And then I went to my elders, pointed every single name, so I've got names for these faces. So alhamdulillah.
So there's a historical record.
Yeah, it's
there.
a historical record, and it's amazing,
Right.
really, because that picture was taken so long ago in March 1953, sorry. And then so many years later, I'm the granddaughter who's in charge of the culture portfolio.
Oh, mashallah. I mean, obviously, you know, to have a Muslim person
Yes.
at that level in local government, and particularly it's not just any local government. As I say, Leeds is outside London now that we don't have the GLA anymore, which is what I'm familiar with. You know, it's the second biggest city in the country. So yeah, so far, I mean, I'm sure what Salma has been telling us and Salma Arif has been telling us, it's been fascinating. I could listen to her for all day long. I'm sure you would have found it fascinating as well. And as usual, if you want to ask any questions or, you know, relate any of your thoughts and memories of Leeds City Council and how you find the City Council at the moment, please feel free to ring in 01274 214 299. The number will appear on your screen. I mean, coming back to you know, your role and responsibility, like you say, you oversee it. You don't manage it on a day-to-day basis. So, you know, you're not saying to a social worker, today you've got to go there. That's for your senior managers.
Correct.
So, you know, you've got directors
Yes.
you know, who work there. How many sort of people in the management team do you have?
So there's loads. To be fair, how it works is anything big comes through me, anything policy-wise or any concerns or something's happened that I need to be made aware of.
Right.
I have, for each one of my portfolio, I have briefings,
Right.
and every director is different. So for adult social care, I've got a different director. She manages, and she has 2 deputies.
Right.
They then have managers underneath them who have their senior managers, and then they have even more managers, and then it goes. That's the sort of hierarchy. I physically am not able to do the day-to-day because I oversee the political lead of that.
I understand that, yeah.
So that's one section. Again, very similar. In fact, actually, I'm quite fortunate for adult social, for active leads and culture. I've got one chief officer who then also has a director. The chief officer reports back to me and says, Councillor, this is what we're planning on doing. What do you think? I will give my input. And I guess the key thing for me, what I drive in that work, is what my values are, what the Leeds City Council's values are, how we can better serve the residents of Leeds. This is Leeds City Council's, you know, this is a taxpayers' money. Are the decisions we're making going to impact rightly for the residents of Leeds? So it's just having an oversight and being ahead as well, seeing what other Leeds City councils are doing in terms of good work. In fact, I was at the conference last week in Liverpool, and you meet different people, and a lot of people said what Leeds is doing is absolutely fantastic, because going back to not having closing any of the leisure centres, we've got some really good working with the NHS happening, and so it's not me. This is a system that's been there for a number of years. We've got some really good partnerships, and we try our best to deliver for the best.
So obviously you're now carrying on some of the good work from the past and developing on that work at the moment. I mean, obviously, you know, I'm sure you would have found what Salma has shared with us so far of real interest. And I know time flies very quickly, and we'll be going for a short break in a few moments' time. But this is something that I don't often get the opportunity to have somebody as so eloquent and as elaborate as Salma at the highest level of local politics. So I hope you found it interesting. We're going for a short break, so don't go away. As I keep saying to you every week, go in and make yourself a tea, coffee, yourself faluda, whatever it is you have. And I'll be back with you very soon. We'll be talking about the more detailed work around social care with Salma as well. So take care. Inshallah, see you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. And don't run away, as I say. So see you soon. Take care.